My name is Emma Ashford. I'm 28 years old, and I live alone in a small apartment in New York City. For the past 3 years, I've carried a secret that claws at my insides, a truth so dark it's etched itself onto my soul. I killed my younger brother. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't an illness. It was necessary. 3 years ago, I discovered that monsters aren't just creatures of folklore. They're real, and sometimes the people you love most can become one of them. My brother, Lucas, was just 17. He was brilliant, kind, with a future so bright it hurt your eyes to look at it. But that future was stolen. Tonight was Friday. It would have been Lucas's 21st birthday. I sat on my sofa, nursing a glass of cheap wine, the kind of heavy ache in my chest that never truly goes away. He should have been celebrating, surrounded by friends, probably with a new girlfriend, heading off to college. Instead, he lay in a grave because a monster had stolen his humanity, and I had to be the one to end his suffering. I picked up my phone, needing to talk to someone. My friend Sarah always knew what to say, even if she didn't truly understand. I typed out a message, my thumbs heavy with unshed tears. Sarah, it's been 3 years, and I still can't sleep. I still see his face. Sometimes I think it would have been easier if I'd just died that night too. At least then I wouldn't be so damn alone. I pressed send, the words a raw, unfiltered spill of my deepest pain. 3 minutes later, my phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Wrong number. But the right message. Loneliness recognizes loneliness, and you sound like you're carrying a burden no one should have to bear alone. My heart jumped. A frantic rabbit against my ribs. Shit. Fuck. Wrong number. I'm so sorry. That wasn't meant for you. Please, just delete it. I typed back, my face burning with mortification. I won't delete it. And I won't pretend I didn't read it. You're in pain. And whoever you lost, they wouldn't want to see you like this. Tears pricked at my eyes. His words, though from a stranger, held a strange, unsettling comfort. You don't know me, I wrote, my voice catching in my throat. No. But I recognize suffering when I see it. I have experience with loss, far more than I'd like. My name is Adrian. And you. I should have blocked him. I should have ended the conversation right there. But something about his response. It was too understanding, too knowing. It was an invitation I was too weak to resist. Emma. A beautiful name. Tell me, Emma. What keeps you awake at 11 p.m. on a Friday night? Ghosts, I admitted, the word a whisper. The worst kind, because we can't fight them. We can only coexist. You talk like you have a lot of them. I do. Decades of them. I let out a humorless laugh, a dry, brittle sound. Decades. You're 50 years old? Something like that? He responded, a faint hint of amusement in his text. We talked until 4 a.m. He didn't pressure me about my past. He didn't ask invasive questions. He just listened. Or rather, he read, and he responded with such quiet understanding that it felt like he truly heard me. When I finally put my phone down, I realized something astonishing. For the first time in 3 years, the crushing weight in my chest had eased. I didn't feel so terribly alone. In the days that followed, Adrian's messages became a constant in my life. He had an uncanny knack for texting at the perfect moment, as if he could sense precisely when I needed him most. Good morning, Emma. Did you sleep well? He'd text. Not really. Nightmares, I'd reply. About what you lost. Always. One day, I'll make sure you have better dreams. I promise. During that first week, our conversations plunged into depths I hadn't anticipated. He'd ask questions that, coming from anyone else, would have felt intrusive. But from him, they simply felt profound. He made me feel seen, truly seen, in a way no one had in years. What were you like before you started carrying this weight? He asked once. I was different, stronger, more alive. I typed back, a pang of longing in my heart. You're still strong, Emma. Survivors always are. but I understand the feeling of losing who you once were. You talk like you've been through it. I have. Many times. Every loss changes you. Until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the reflection. Exactly. I wrote, a strange sense of kinship stirring within me. But you know what I've learned? Sometimes, the right person can remind you of who you were and make you want to be someone again. My heart gave a little flutter, a nervous, hopeful beat. And you found that person? I dared to ask. I'm beginning to think so. Then, during the second week, he called for the first time. It was 2:37 a.m., and I was, as usual, wide awake, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed, and I almost dropped it. It was Adrian. Hello? I answered, my voice rough with sleep and surprise. Emma. Oh, God. His voice. It was deep, velvety, controlled, with an accent I couldn't quite place, ancient British, perhaps, mingled with something darker, more elemental. Every word seemed precisely chosen, every syllable imbued with a quiet intensity. It sent a shiver down my spine that was equal parts fear and thrill. Adrian, I whispered, my breath catching, you're not sleeping again. How do you know? Because I'm not, either. And I have a feeling we're awake for the same reasons. What reasons? Thinking about each other. My stomach clenched, a hot knot of nerves and undeniable longing. You're very direct, I managed to say. I'm old enough not to waste time with games. Emma, I want you. I want to know you. I want to learn every secret, every scar, every nightmare. And I want to be the reason you finally sleep in peace. You don't even know me in person. Then let me know you. We talked for 5 hours that night. He never gave me specifics about where he lived or mentioned family. When I tried to ask about his past, he'd deftly turn the conversation back to me. And I, mesmerized by his voice, by the strange comfort he offered, told him everything. About my childhood in Portland, my move to New York, my favorite coffee shop on 5th and Broadway, my running route through Central Park. I was drawing a map for him, piece by agonizing piece, without even realizing it. By the 3rd week, the obsession wasn't one-sided anymore. It was mutual. Where are you right now? He'd text, not as a question, but as a demand. Leaving work. Why? Because I don't like the idea of you being alone on the street at night. Adrian, I can take care of myself. I know, but that doesn't change the fact that I want to protect you. You don't even know me in person. Yet, but that's about to change. Very soon. My heart hammered against my ribs. What do you mean? I can't stand it anymore, Emma. 3 weeks of talking, and I can't breathe without knowing what it's like to see you, to touch you, to have you near. Adrian, meet me. Tomorrow, 9 p.m. The Crimson Rose, West 44th. I'll be at the back table. And Emma? Yes? I already know you'll come, because you feel this too. This hunger, this need. He was right, and it terrified me. I almost didn't go. I stood in front of my mirror at 8:45 p.m., in a dark red dress I rarely wore, my heart a frantic hummingbird in my chest. The Crimson Rose was exactly as I'd imagined it. Low lighting, live jazz, an atmosphere that hummed with secrets and unspoken desires. And then I saw him, Adrian Corvus. My world stopped. The air left my lungs. He was impossible. Over 6 feet 2 inches, broad shoulders filling out a black suit that looked custom-made. Dark hair, swept back, a jawline so sculpted it seemed carved from stone. But it was his eyes that ensnared me. Steel gray, ancient, and impossibly hungry. They held a depth that spoke of centuries. A quiet ferocity that drew me in even as it screamed danger. Emma, he said, his voice raw, even across the distance. My name, in his live voice, was a devastation. A promise. Adrian, I managed to whisper, my own voice barely a breath. He rose, his movements fluid, too graceful, too predatory. He took 3 steps, closing the distance between us, and stopped just inches from me. I had to tilt my head back to meet his gaze. "You're stronger than I imagined," he murmured, his eyes sweeping over my face as if memorizing every detail. "And more beautiful. You're more intense," I admitted, my voice a mere thread of sound. A dangerous smile played on his lips. "I should be. But never for you, Emma. Never for you." We sat down. He ordered a glass of red wine for me. Nothing for himself. "Aren't you drinking?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my senses were on high alert. "I don't typically drink wine," he said, a careful edge to his voice. We talked, or rather, I tried to talk, but my mind was racing. I was observing, because something was wrong. Not wrong, exactly. Different. The way he moved. Too fluid, too silent. The paleness of his skin, too perfect. Almost translucent. The fact that I hadn't seen him breathe. Not once. And his eyes. In certain lights, there was a flash of something utterly, terrifyingly inhuman. My hunter training, dormant for 3 long years, was stirring, a cold, calculated awareness. I knew these signs. I knew what they meant. My blood ran cold. "You're not human," I whispered, the words barely audible. He froze, his gaze locking onto mine, piercing and unwavering. "What did you say?" "You don't breathe. Your skin is cold. Your movements are impossible." My hand instinctively went to my purse, where, by old habit, a small silver dagger lay hidden. "What are you?" Something dangerous, yet oddly respectful, flickered in his eyes. "You're observant," he said softly, a hint of a smile playing on his lips, more than I expected. "Answer me." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a low, intimate tone. "You already know, Emma. Your body already recognized it. That's why your hand is on your purse. That's why your heart is racing. Not from fear, from recognition." "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "Yes." His eyes flashed. A brief, startling flicker of crimson. "I'm 350 years old, Emma. Born in 1674, died in 1699, reborn as something different." "Vampire," I breathed, the word a horror and a revelation. "Vampire," he confirmed, his gaze unwavering. And then, fueled by 3 years of ingrained training and a gut-wrenching sense of betrayal, I did the only thing I knew how to do. I drew the dagger and attacked. I was fast, but he was faster. In one impossibly fluid movement, Adrian caught my wrist, disarming me with an effortless grace that spoke of centuries of practice. The silver dagger clattered onto the table with a sharp sound. The entire bar seemed to fall silent, every eye turning towards us. Adrian, ever the master of deception, simply smiled at the onlookers. A charming, disarming grin. "Just a lover's quarrel," he murmured, his voice a low rumble. "Everything's fine." And just like that, the patrons averted their gazes, returning to their conversations, convinced they'd witnessed a minor domestic dispute. "But he didn't release my wrist, Hunter," he said softly, his eyes burning into mine. No longer charming, but dangerously intense. "You're a hunter." It wasn't a question. "Let go," I hissed, struggling against his grip, but it was like trying to break free from steel. "No." He rose, pulling me with him. My feet barely brushed the floor. "We're leaving. Now. Or you'll try to kill me again, and I'll have to disarm you in front of witnesses. And neither of us wants that." He guided me out, his hand firm on my arm, not hurting, but utterly dominating. He led me through the back of the bar, into a dimly lit alley. Once there, he pinned me against the cold brick wall. Not violently, but with an unyielding force that left no room for escape. His hands were on either side of my head, his body a solid barrier. "Now," he said, his voice dangerously calm, barely above a whisper. "You'll listen to me." "You're a monster," I started, fear and fury battling within me. "Yes!" he roared, cutting me off, and for the first time I saw them. His fangs, long, sharp, and utterly deadly. "I am a monster. I am a predator. I am a killer. I've killed hundreds in 350 years, but I will never, Emma, never hurt you." How can I believe that? My voice was barely a tremor. Because if I wanted you dead, you already would be. I've known where you live, where you work, where you run, where you drink coffee for 3 weeks. I've had 1,000 opportunities. The realization hit me like a physical blow. You tracked me. I found you, he corrected, his voice a low growl, because from the first message, something in me woke, something that had been dead for centuries. And when I finally heard your voice, I knew. You are mine to protect, mine to know, mine to love. I killed vampires. I spat, defiance warring with a rising tide of terror. Dozens of them. I know. I froze. What? You think I didn't notice? The way you move, the scars I know you have under those clothes, the fact that you carry a silver weapon to a romantic bar. He smiled, a dark, predatory curve of his lips. You were a hunter, Emma, and I'm a vampire. We should be enemies. But you know what that makes me feel. What? I whispered, my breath shallow, excited. His eyes flared, a deep, unsettling crimson. You're a warrior, lethal, dangerous, and mine. We're both killers, Emma. Both carry blood on our hands. Both know darkness. Maybe we're perfect for each other. You're insane. I'm obsessed, he corrected, leaning closer, his words a soft caress against my ear. With you, completely, irrevocably, and I won't apologize for it. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to fight, to escape, but my body was burning. A strange, agonizing mixture of fear and an undeniable, overwhelming arousal. Let me go, I pleaded, my voice barely audible. Not until you admit it. Admit what? That you feel this too. This attraction, this hunger. I hate vampires. My last, desperate defense. I know. And yet you're here. Yet your heart is racing. Yet... He brushed his nose against my neck, inhaling my scent. You're aroused. I gasped. A small involuntary sound. Admit it, he commanded, his voice a low thrum against my skin. I can't. You can, and you will, but not today. He released me, taking a step back, the sudden loss of his body against mine leaving me cold and exposed. Today, I'll take you home. You'll process this, and when you're ready to admit the truth, I'll be waiting. He reached down, picking up my dagger from where it had fallen, and handed it back to me, hilt first. Next time you try to kill me, at least use something that can actually hurt me. Silver doesn't work on ancestrals. He vanished into the night, leaving me trembling, utterly confused, and desperately, irrevocably addicted. Adrian didn't text the next day, or the next, or the day after that. 3 days. 3 agonizing days of utter silence. I was going insane. My phone became an extension of my hand, checked every 5 minutes with a rising sense of desperation. I hated that he had this power over me, that his absence was a gaping wound. I hated that I missed him with a longing that defied all logic. On the 4th day, I broke. Are you going to stay silent forever? I texted, my fingers shaking. Nothing. If you wanted to punish me for trying to kill you, congratulations, it worked. Still nothing. Adrian, please. My phone rang. A call. I answered before the second ring. Emma, his voice, that deep, velvety, impossible voice, sent a jolt through me. Where were you? I exploded, the words tumbling out in a torrent of frustration and relief. 3 days. You disappear for 3 days without a word. I needed to be sure. Sure of what? That you wanted me. Not the idea of me. Not the fantasy. Me. The monster. The killer. The vampire you were trained to hate. There was a pause. A pregnant silence that stretched between us. And now I know. Know what? That you're as addicted as I am. I should have denied it. I should have screamed at him, told him he was wrong, that I hated him. But the truth was a heavy, undeniable weight in my chest. I couldn't. This doesn't change what you are, I whispered, the fight suddenly leaving me. No, but it changes what we are, Together, his voice hardened, a command ringing through the phone. I'm coming to your apartment. Tonight. Midnight. And Emma? Yes. If you don't want me there, lock the door. I'll respect it. But if you leave it open, his voice dropped to a dangerous, seductive growl. I'll come in, and I won't leave until you admit the truth. He hung up, leaving me with the dial tone and a racing heart. Midnight. I was on my couch, huddled in a blanket, staring at the locked front door. My heart hammered against my ribs, a wild drumbeat of anticipation and fear. I had locked it. Then I heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible tap at the window. The window. I lived on the 8th floor. I rose slowly, my entire body trembling. I walked to the window, pulled back the curtain, and there he was. Adrian, standing on my balcony, a dangerous, beautiful, impossible silhouette against the city lights. He smiled, a slow, predatory curve of his lips, as if being 25 meters off the ground was the most normal thing in the world. He gestured towards the glass door leading to the balcony. I should have slammed the curtain shut. I should have screamed. I should have called the police. But I opened the door. He stepped inside, moving with that fluid grace that was so distinctly inhuman, his eyes never leaving mine. You left the door locked, he observed, his voice a low murmur. Yes. But you opened the window. Yes. My voice was barely a whisper. Why? I couldn't speak. The words lodged in my throat. He took 3 steps, closing the distance between us, stopping just inches from me. Say it, he urged, his gaze intense, demanding. Because... My voice failed completely. Tell me, Emma. His hands came up, cupping my face, his thumbs gently stroking my cheekbones. Tell me the truth, because I can't stop thinking about you. I finally burst out, the words a desperate confession. Because it's been 4 days, and I'm going insane. Because I hate vampires. I hate what you did to my life. But when I look at you, I don't see a monster. I see. What? He whispered, his eyes searching mine, his voice a soft caress. You. He smiled then, a genuine, devastating smile that reached his ancient eyes. Finally, and then he kissed me. It wasn't a kiss. It was a devouring, a possession. 350 years of pent-up hunger, exploding in a single, earth-shattering moment. It was a promise and a threat, an absolute, undeniable devotion. My hands instinctively grabbed his suit, pulling him closer, desperate for more. He groaned, a primitive, desperate sound that vibrated through my very bones. He lifted me effortlessly, my legs automatically wrapping around his waist. He pressed me against the wall, his hard body flush against mine, his hands everywhere, claiming, demanding. When we finally broke apart, gasping, or rather, I was gasping. Both of us were trembling. He rested his forehead against mine, eyes closed, his breathing controlled with a visible effort. Emma, he rasped, his voice thick with raw emotion. If we don't stop now, don't stop, I whispered, my fingers digging into his broad shoulders. His eyes opened, a dangerous crimson at the edges, his fangs visible, though not bared in aggression. You don't know what you're asking. Then show me. Something wild and primal crossed his face, a raw hunger that thrilled me to my core. Without another word, he carried me to the bedroom, and he showed me. In the days after that night, everything changed. Adrian was no longer mysterious. He was possessive, utterly, gloriously possessive. His texts were constant, demanding. Where are you? Work. Why? Because it's been 3 hours since you responded. 3 hours, Emma. I was in a meeting, Adrian. I don't like it when I don't know where you are. Adrian, you can't control me. I'm not trying to control. I'm trying to keep you alive. You don't understand the dangers out there. I was a hunter. I know the dangers. Exactly. And now every rogue vampire you hunted has reason to want you dead. So yes, I'll know where you are. Always. A part of me, the part that had been so desperately alone for so long, absolutely loved it. Loved being wanted like this, protected like this, possessed like this. It was terrifying, yes, but it was also exhilarating. A week later, Adrian showed up at my work, unannounced. I was leaving the building when I saw him, leaning against his black car, sunglasses masking his eyes, an aura of pure power radiating from him. Adrian, what are you doing here? I asked, a mix of surprise and delight. Picking you up. He opened the car door. Get in. I have my car, which will stay here. My men will retrieve it later. Get in, Emma. It wasn't a request. I got in. He drove in tense silence for 10 minutes, the air thick with unspoken concerns. Are you going to tell me what's happening? I finally asked, breaking the silence. There's a vampire circling your building. Has been for 3 days. My blood ran cold. What? My men detected him. He stays in the shadows, watching, waiting. Adrian's gaze, dark and intense, met mine. You're being hunted, Emma. And I don't know by whom yet. It could be anyone, I whispered, my mind racing through the faces of those I had hunted, those whose kind I had killed. I killed so many. I know. That's why you won't be alone anymore. Ever. Adrian, I can't live like this. You can. He cut me off, his voice hard, unyielding. Because the alternative is you dead, and that's not an option. He took me to his penthouse. You're staying here, he stated, not asking, until I find out who's hunting you, and destroy them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood in his vast living room, looking out at the glittering cityscape, feeling his presence behind me. His hands found my waist, pulling me gently against his chest, his chin resting on my shoulder. You're tense, he murmured, his breath warm against my ear. I'm scared. I know, but I'm here. And while I am, nothing touches you. I turned in his embrace, meeting those deep gray eyes. Why do you care so much? You've known me for 3 weeks. Because, he said, his fingers tracing the curve of my jaw. In 350 years, I've never... This need, this hunger that isn't for blood. It's for you, your voice, your scent, your strength. He leaned his forehead against mine, his gaze unwavering. You made me feel human again, Emma, and now that I've found you, I'll protect you with every drop of power I have. What if it's not enough? It will be. His eyes flashed red, a dangerous promise, because I'm the most lethal predator in this city, and you're mine. Anyone who tries to take you from me will discover exactly how much of a monster I can be. He kissed me then, a possessive, desperate kiss that promised both protection and utter destruction. 2 days later, Adrian entered the penthouse, his face a mask of deadly fury. I found out who's hunting you, he said, his voice a low growl. My stomach dropped. Who? He threw a photograph onto the polished coffee table. I looked. My world stopped. Blonde hair, ice blue eyes, the cruel smile from my darkest nightmares. No, I whispered, my breath catching in my throat. You know him, Victor Constantine, the corruptor. My voice trembled, raw with a terror I thought I'd buried forever. Adrian went very still, his gaze piercing. He's the vampire who turned your brother. Yes. Tears welled in my eyes, hot and bitter. Watched me kill Lucas, and laughed, said it was a social experiment, to see how long a good boy would take to become a monster. Something visibly broke in Adrian's face. His eyes went completely red, fangs elongating, a raw, terrifying power emanating from him. He's dead, Adrian hissed, his voice a lethal whisper. I'll rip every limb from his body, make him beg for death, and then I'll deny it until he goes insane. Adrian, he hunted you, Emma. He's watching you, probably planning to turn you too, make you go through the same hell as your brother. He cupped my face in his hands, his fingers trembling with suppressed fury. "But he won't touch you. I swear. He won't even get close." "How do you know where he is?" "Because," Adrian said, a dark, predatory smile twisting his lips, "I've been hunting him for months. He killed humans under my protection, broke every law, and now that I know he's the same one who destroyed your life," his eyes burned with an infernal light, "the hunt is over. I'll draw him out. And when he comes, I want to be there." I interrupted, my voice firm despite my fear. "Emma, he killed my brother, made me kill my brother, destroyed my life." Adrian studied me, his gaze searching. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Then we'll finish this. Together." But Victor found us first. It was 3 nights later. Adrian had left for an urgent clan meeting, a rogue vampire attack in the South District. He hadn't wanted to leave me alone, not even for a minute, but I had insisted. "There are guards at the door. I'm safe," I'd told him, trying to sound more confident than I felt. He'd kissed me then, a long, deep, desperate kiss that tasted of fear and promise. "I'll be back in 2 hours. Don't leave. For anything. I promise." He left, and I was alone. At 3 a.m., I woke with a gut feeling of wrongness. The temperature in the penthouse had plummeted. The air felt heavy, oppressive. And there was a smell. Blood. I jumped from the bed, my heart hammering. I threw open the bedroom door. Adrian's 2 guards were on the floor, their necks broken. Dead. And in the middle of the living room, sitting on the pristine white sofa as if he owned the place, was Victor Constantine. "Hello, Emma," he said, his voice a cruel purr. "You've grown. Last time I saw you, you were crying over your baby brother's corpse." Pure terror hit me, cold and sharp. But then, something else. Rage. 3 years of repressed, simmering rage, exploding to the surface. "You," I hissed, my voice barely audible. "Me," he confirmed, rising slowly, his cruel smile widening. "I was so happy when I found out you were still alive, and even happier when I found out you were consorting with Corvus." He chuckled, a chilling sound. "A hunter and an ancestral vampire. What a delicious cliché." My hand instinctively darted towards the nearby drawer where I always kept a hidden silver dagger. Victor said, and then, in an impossible blur of speed, he was suddenly in front of me. He grabbed my wrist, squeezing until I cried out and dropped the weapon. "No cheating, darling." He threw me against the wall. A searing pain exploded in my back as my head hit the plaster. But the training, the hunter's instincts, dormant for 3 long years, ignited. I rolled, grabbing the heavy lamp from a nearby table, and hurled it at him. He dodged it with a laugh, his eyes glinting with amusement. "You have fight, just like your brother. At first, anyway. Later, well, hunger breaks everyone." "Shut up!" I screamed, grabbing a broken piece of wood from the shattered chair I'd hit earlier. It wasn't a proper stake, but it would have to do. I lunged. He blocked me effortlessly, throwing me again. I crashed into a heavy dresser, a sharp pain in my forehead as blood trickled into my eye. "You're fun," Victor said, approaching slowly, savoring my pain. "I'll enjoy turning you. See how long it takes you to kill someone you love. Maybe." Corvus himself. He crouched, his hand reaching for my throat. Imagine the irony. A turned hunter killing an ancestral vampire. Poetic. His fingers touched my skin, cold and chilling. Then, the penthouse door exploded. It was literally ripped from its hinges, flying across the room. Adrian entered like a hurricane of death. His eyes were completely red, long fangs bared, his face transformed into a mask of absolute fury. A raw, terrifying power emanated from him, a palpable force I'd never witnessed before. "You touched what's mine!" Adrian roared, his voice echoing like thunder, shaking the very foundations of the penthouse. Victor barely had time to turn before Adrian was on him. What followed was a massacre. Adrian didn't fight like a vampire. He fought like a god of war. Every hit was bone-shattering. Every movement was death. Victor, though 400 years old and powerful, was nothing more than prey in Adrian's furious assault. They crashed through furniture, through walls, through windows, their battle tearing apart the opulent penthouse. I watched, frozen in a mix of horror and primal awe, as Adrian systematically destroyed Victor. But Victor was cunning, even in his desperation. He pulled a hidden blade, slashing at Adrian. Adrian dodged most of the attack, but the blade caught his shoulder. He didn't even flinch. He just roared, grabbed Victor by the throat, and lifted him effortlessly off the ground. "You turned her brother," Adrian hissed, his voice a low, lethal growl. "Made her kill him, and now you tried to touch her." "Corvus, wait," Victor gasped, fear finally showing in his ice-blue eyes. "There is no wait." Adrian looked at me, still on the floor, bleeding, my body aching, but my gaze fixed on him. "Emma," he said, his voice breaking. "Do you want to do this, or do I?" I pushed myself up, trembling, my hand finding the broken piece of wood I'd wielded earlier. I walked towards them, my legs unsteady but my resolve burning. Victor was immobilized in Adrian's hand, his eyes wide with stark terror. "You destroyed my life," I whispered, my voice raw with 3 years of pain and rage. "Killed my brother, made me kill my brother. I'm sorry," Victor stammered, a desperate plea. "Liar." Tears streamed down my face, hot and bitter. "You feel nothing, but you'll feel this." I drove the piece of wood into his chest. It wasn't a perfect stake. It didn't kill him instantly. It hurt. It hurt him deeply. Adrian finished the job. He ripped Victor's head off with his bare hands. The body crumbled to ash. It was over. 3 years of hunting. 3 years of pain. Over. I collapsed, the adrenaline draining from my body, leaving me weak and empty. Adrian caught me before I hit the ground, pulling me tightly against his chest. "It's over," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. "It's over, my love. I protected you, and I always will." But then he stopped. He looked down, his gaze fixed on the crimson stain spreading across my abdomen. "Emma!" His voice broke, a raw, desperate sound. "Emma, you're bleeding!" I looked down. There was a blade embedded in my side, a small silver glint. Victor must have stabbed me during the fight, and I hadn't even felt it, lost in the white-hot haze of adrenaline and revenge. "Adrian," I whispered, my legs failing beneath me. "No," he roared, a sound of absolute agony. "No, no, no, no." He laid me gently on the floor, his hands pressing against the wound, trying to staunch the relentless flow of blood. But it wouldn't stop. "You're not going to die," he pleaded, his voice desperate. "I don't allow it." "Adrian, it's okay." "It's not." Tears, actual tears, streamed down his face, shimmering in the dim light. "You can't leave me. Not now. Not after I finally found you." My vision was darkening, the edges of my sight blurring into black. "How?" I barely managed to croak. He looked at me, then at his own wrist, his jaw tight. "There's a way," he said, his voice strained. "But you have to choose. Fast." "What?" "Transformation. I turn you. You become a vampire, immortal, alive." He cupped my face, his eyes pleading, desperate. "But it has to be now. You have seconds, Emma." "Seconds." I don't know." "Emma, choose." His voice was a guttural plea, a desperate command. My vision was almost completely black. But I looked at him, at the desperation on his face, at the raw, undeniable love shining in his ancient eyes. "Do it," I whispered, my last ounce of strength failing. He didn't hesitate. He bit into his own wrist, a sharp, clean cut, and pressed it against my lips. "Drink," he commanded, his voice hoarse. "Drink." I drank, and the world exploded in pain, a searing fire that consumed every cell of my being. Then, darkness, utter, complete darkness. I woke up 3 days later. Everything was different. The world shimmered with an unsettling clarity. Colors were more vivid, sounds sharper, smells 1,000 times more intense, each scent a complex tapestry I could almost taste. And the hunger. Oh, God. The hunger. A raw, primal ache deep in my gut that screamed for something I didn't understand. Emma. Adrian was beside the bed, his eyes red-rimmed with worry, a mixture of fear and profound relief. What? What did you do? I managed to croak, my voice raspy, unfamiliar. I saved you, transformed you. He took my hand, his touch cool against my skin. You're in transition. You need to drink blood in the next few hours or the transformation fails, and you die for real. Panic, cold and sharp, hit me. I can't. You can, and you will. He reached for a blood bag, the kind used in hospitals, not from a living donor. It's not human blood. It's from a blood bank. Safe. Ethical. Adrian, you took my choice. I saved you, he roared, cutting me off, his voice raw with frustration. You were dying. I wasn't going to stand there and watch you die when I could do something. Now I'm mine, he completed, his voice softening, yet still firm. Immortal, powerful, alive. He cupped my face, his thumb gently caressing my cheek. And I don't regret it. Not 1 second. Tears, cold and silent, streamed down my face. I hate you. I know, he said, his gaze unwavering. But you also love me. And you'll have eternity to decide which feeling is stronger. He offered the blood bag. My instincts screamed at me to refuse, to fight, to reject this monstrous fate. But the hunger, the searing, insatiable hunger overwhelmed everything else. I drank. And it was ecstasy, a dark, sublime rush that silenced the pain and awakened a terrifying new strength. Weeks passed. Adrian taught me everything. Control over the hunger, how to hunt, ethically, only from animals or stored blood bags, how to harness my new strength, my impossible speed, my enhanced senses. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, I began to accept, not what he had done to me, not the monstrous choice he'd made on my behalf, but what I was now, until one night, he asked a question that brought everything into sharp focus. Emma, he said, as we stood on his penthouse balcony, looking out at the glittering tapestry of the city. Do you still hate me? Sometimes, I admitted, the truth a bitter taste on my tongue. Fair. He pulled me into his arms, holding me close, his presence a comforting, yet constant reminder of my new reality. Stay? Stay where? With me, as my mate, my equal, my queen, my heart. No longer beating but still capable of emotion, raced. Adrian, I love you, Emma Ashford. I loved you since that first message, and I will love you for all eternity, even if you never forgive me, even if you hate me. I will love you. I don't hate you, I whispered, the words a surrender I hadn't known I was capable of. I love you, and that terrifies me. Why? Because love like this, it consumes, it destroys, and I've already lost so much. You won't lose me, he promised, his voice a firm, unbreakable vow. Never, because now, we're eternal. He knelt then, a surprising, archaic gesture from a being of such immense power. He took out a small velvet box. Inside, nestled on a silken cushion, was a ring, a blood-red ruby, ancient and breathtaking, surrounded by dark diamonds. Marry me, he said, his eyes filled with an intensity that promised forever. Not as a human, as a vampire, as a warrior, as the queen of my clan. Stay with me, forever. I should have thought, pondered, considered the implications of this new, terrifying, magnificent life, but I already knew the answer. But I have one condition, I said, a faint smile touching my lip. Anything, he replied, his gaze unwavering. I keep hunting. Rogue vampires. The ones who hurt humans. The ones who destroy lives and make monsters. And you help me. He smiled then, a proud, dangerous, utterly loving smile. My warrior queen. Yes. We'll hunt together. Then yes. I'll marry you. 6 months later, the Vampire Council Hall. It was a cavernous, imposing chamber, filled with the oldest, most powerful vampires on the continent. I stood beside Adrian, dressed in a dark red gown that flowed around me like spilled blood, my posture that of a warrior, not a trembling human, no longer the frightened girl who had cried alone on her sofa, no longer the broken hunter consumed by guilt. I was Emma Corvus, vampire, mate of an ancestral master, and hunter of rogue vampire. Adrian and I had made a deal with the council. I would continue to hunt, but my targets would be strictly regulated. Only those who broke the ancient law, only those who preyed on humans, who made monsters, the victors of the world, and the council, after much debate and a demonstration of my considerable, newly acquired lethality, had allowed it, because I was lethal, and now I was immortal. Adrian presented me to the assembled council members, my mate, my queen, formerly a hunter, now our greatest ally. His eyes swept over the ancient vampires, a clear, deadly warning in his gaze. Anyone who touches her answers to me. Anyone who disrespects her faces us both. Is that clear? A profound silence descended upon the hall. Then, one by one, the council members, beings of immense power and ancient lineage, bowed their heads. To me, Adrian smiled, pulling me into a deep, possessive kiss, right there in front of everyone. When he finally pulled back, he whispered against my lip, "My warrior queen, your favorite monster." I responded, a genuine smile curving my mouth. He laughed then, a rare, beautiful sound that resonated through the hall. "Forever?" he asked, his eyes filled with eternal promise. "Forever. Some wrong numbers lead to the right destiny. Some vampires are worth loving, and some hunters become queens